Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast in a game between NoxOut versus Jaxx here on Shakura's Plateau. NoxOut spawning as the blue Terran player on the bottom left hand side of the map. Meanwhile, we have Jaxx spawning as the green Protoss player here on the bottom right hand side of the map. This is game 1 in a series. Hopefully the series does not disappoint. Both of these players, I believe, have made it into the later rounds of the Zotac Cup. I believe it's a weekly tournament sponsored by Zotac, and we'll see what's gonna happen here. Apparently, I don't, if only carrier, do you only BCS? Okay, I'm not quite sure if I can read this, but apparently it's like, is it all right if you only create only create carriers, and the counter is, I believe carriers are OP, and then they're just talking about carriers and Yamato cannon and battle cruisers, and we'll see what's really going to come out from these players. I don't expect battle cruisers versus carriers, but then again, I have been wrong in the past, and I wouldn't mind if I am wrong again. SCV now looking to do a bit of scouting as a probe going to slip up the ramp. SCV does pass the probe here, as we are now going to see a barracks being constructed away from the front door, and now the probe going to do a little bit of harassment. I like the timing on the scout here by NoxOut. NoxOut scouting straight after building that supply depot, knowing that he needs to get an early scouting information, as Protoss players can utilize proxy gateways. If a proxy gateway is utilized, it needs to be dealt with early. Build that second supply depot on the front door, perhaps build another supply depot as well, delaying your orbital command. And then you can be able to take down that gateway and that pylon, as it is going to be rather exposed, as you have a lot more Marines than he can really deal with. Command center still training up SCVs, as the SCV, oh, what happened here? The SCV took a look inside the base and didn't find his opponent. So NoxOut just completely misscouted Jaxx here, and now the SCV of NoxOut going, what did I miss? He came in here, went all the way in, and now needs to come back and figure out what exactly is happening, as we now see the SCV coming down the ramp, making sure that there is no proxy gateway in the brush, as the SCV finally making its way up the ramp now to take a look around. It will finally do so in just a moment, but all of that early mining time has been lost, as the SCV has eventually found his opponent, but he still doesn't know where the gateway is. He knows that there is a cybernetics core and a pylon, but with that all there is, the SCV is now going to finally come across the gateway, as we are going into a Reaper. So perhaps a Reaper expand here on Shakura's Plateau, a rather interesting and strange strategy. A Reaper expand now, as we do see a second supply depot is being added, another barracks being thrown down as well, so it doesn't necessarily look like a Reaper expand, as we are researching STIM as well. A probe hanging around by the Zonaga Tower will quickly be scouted out by this SCV. SCV may stick around this one probe just a little while, getting in a little bit of damage there, as the probe now finally backing away. Apparently my connection to BattleNet has been lost. Alright, anyways, taking a look at this, SCV just going to continue to chase that probe. The probe going to run back up the ramp, as a Reaper was able to gain sight now. There is a Stalker here. The Stalker, however, is now simply going to wait off. Perhaps he is expecting a Reaper, as Jaxx is now getting 2 additional gateways. A gateway expansion is possible, a 3-gate expand here, as Jaxx should be able to warp in a lot of units for some very natural defense. The Reaper now going to come around the far corner and will scout out this Nexus here. Pretty much knows with that Nexus what exactly is going to be coming, knows that there is not going to be any early aggression, as the Reaper now making its way up. There is a sentry on the front door, and a Reaper exchanged for a sentry is a fairly decent trade, but now all the probes are trying to run away. Will one probe? Yes, one probe does get taken down. I believe a second probe could have been taken down as well, as the Reaper now low on hit points, gonna jump but most likely get shot, as the Reaper jumping up and down cliffs does slow down just a bit. Reactor now being placed down, as we are going into a factory. This is going to be a 2 racks, as we are now getting bunkers on the front door. Bunkers very effective at holding, as long as they have SCVs to repair. If the SCVs are not there to repair it, then the Marauders and the Marines inside will be quickly exposed, and force fields are a great use of that to make sure that the Marines and the Marauders don't get the benefit of a repairing bunker. One bunker about halfway or more than 2/3 of the way completed now as an SCV now in full retreat. I do not believe these Zealots and Sentries are having caught, as the Marauders are now making their way out for a bit of a very bad move, gonna most likely get caught out of position. Units may get caught in transit, as you can see that the sentries are now making their way off to the north. Marines are going to stim up here and may catch all of these units here. There's a couple of force fields. One sentry does get taken down. Stalkers are now in the center of the map as well, offering some protection. And where are these Marauders and these Marines going to go? They need to get back inside. There's nothing inside the bunker just quite yet. This is really bad news. An SCV now making its way down. Marines and Marauders, and where's the force fields? There you are at force fields now. Only one SCV able to repair at a time, as a Guardian shield now coming up as well. The Marauders and SCVs barely able to repair, and it looks like it will be able to hold on to this for just a little while longer, as the Marauders, I'm not exactly sure how Jaxx just completely fell apart there. The SCVs, only one or two of them were repairing. The bunker looked like it was going to fall in just a moment, but then again, all the Marines inside that bunker were stimmed as well. Two sentries now running all the way back home. We are going into a starport with a reactor. Orbital Command currently just calling down mules, as NoxOut currently has a harvester advantage 34-34, but those two mules mining very efficiently and now will allow NoxOut to just train up a lot more Marines and Marauders. Currently a Warp Prism now being added, and a Warp Prism going to pick up 3 sentries and a Zealot. Also, all of this behind another 3 gates. So these 3 gates should be able to, or 3 warp gates should be able to warp in additional units as well. And you're going to have a 14 food army inside here in just a moment. The Warp Prism most likely will catch all of these Marines and these Marauders out of position. NoxOut thinking that he's in a very, very nice situation. Hope has control of a Zelnaga tower, as the observers are now making their way out. And now in comes the Zealots and the Sentries. Zealots and Sentries are now coming in. There's some force fields trapping some of those SCVs as well. SCVs are unable to get out. They are all just simply stuck there, as they are now finally making their way out the far side. One Zealot attempting to run away. Another SCV is going to get destroyed here, as all the units are now being picked up and now will hide off in a corner. Only one Marauder and a Marine able to just push back this attack here, and I do not believe that many workers were killed. Only 5 workers killed. Might have been better with perhaps Stalkers or Zealots actually in the mineral line, perhaps trapping another force field here to allow those Zealots to really get in there and deal damage. Sentries, very, very low DPS units for what they are, as now NoxOut going to come in with his own drop, and this drop may be effective. Stalkers and Sentries are in position to intercept this drop, though, as the Warp Prism isn't going to spot it. It might, as the Medevac's now coming in, but the Stalkers are going to catch those units. One Medevac down to 98 hit points, and now simply just going to retreat back home. We now see level 1 weapons upgrade coming in from NoxOut. Both players try to do a little bit of feign damage to each other. Warp Prism moves at the same speed as those Medevacs, but the Warp Prism can get that movement speed upgrade. I don't believe it will come into play, as the Robotics Bay does need to research it first. Marines and Marauders now in the center of the map. Marines now just being completely unloaded here, as Jaxx is watching all of this and needs to figure out what his plan is going to be. One Colossus is now about to exit out of there, needing about another, 40 seconds to make its way out. There is already one Colossus in the field as well. Extended thermal lance range needs about another 30 seconds, so the timing on this attack needs to be perfect. Otherwise, if he stays too long, the Colossi will be too much. There's the double force field, as Marines are caught up on the high ground. One sentry does get taken down. The Stalkers are now pulling back here, as a Medevac drop. Now a Medevac drop was completely essentially cleaned up. So now we're going to see what Colossi now make their way in. There's some force fields. The Colossi purposely backing off here, and Jaxx doing a great job defending against multiple attacks. There is one Marine patrolling in here. There's still a Warp Prism acting as essentially an observer, which was able to prevent this drop from really dealing that much damage. You can see no workers killed. I'm sure some of you guys can rewind the video and take a look at that engagement. A third Colossus now being added. Level 1 weapons upgrade, as Blink is also being added as well. The medevac looking to come in for a drop. The warp prism is going to catch this medevac. They are going to pass by each other. The stalkers are already in position, and the medevac pretty much knows, hey, I can't do anything at all. The medevac going to simply hide along the north side here, perhaps drop in along the back, and then deal some damage to those probes. Or perhaps come into the 9 o'clock expansion location. We see an expansion with 5 mules currently here. So 5 mules now mining away. A planetary fortress is going to be added, as well as SCVs now being transferred from the main base and the natural expansion. A medevac now unloading the units off over here and going to be doing a stop on this expansion. So Jaxx is going to lose this pylon. The pylon will fall. The Nexus now going to get dropped as another drop happening in the third or the second. So Marines and Marauders now going after probes in the mineral line. A lot more workers have been lost there, as it looks like Jaxx now going after probes, trying to go after the weakest units here, and it looks as though the Marines will get taken down eventually, but not before a couple more probes are lost as well. You can see NoxOut being very careful to focus on probes, but now too many stalkers to deal with as those stalkers slowly peel back and blink away. Vikings are out. NoxOut still with a sizable advantage now. 57 SCVs versus 33 probes. Colossi were able to finish off this drop here before the Nexus was taken down, as we still have a factory floating in the center of the map on the high ground here and providing sight. The Colossi will be able to spot that factory, though, as the factory now finally forced to fly away. But we do have Vikings. Vikings are going to engage against those Colossi. Those Vikings perhaps going to be able to 3-shot, as the Marines and the Marauders are now trying to engage, but Sentries now coming in. Stalkers getting in an easy blink, picking off a couple more units as the Vikings are forced to retreat. There is a planetary fortress here. The planetary fortress would be a natural position where you want to fight, but the Colossi will be able to get in and deal some damage, as well as the Stalkers, Marines, and both units are simply trying to engage. There are now Stalkers up on the high ground, and they blinked up onto that location there. A little bit of a bad position, as the Stalkers don't really have anywhere to go, but the Vikings cannot engage against those Colossi, as the planetary fortress also getting in a few hits as well. Just trying to split up this army here. You can see SCVs now coming over, now trying to repair. It's not going to be able to repair in time as the new round of force fields come in. Stalkers blinking underneath the Vikings, and Jaxx doing a great job of fighting a war on two fronts, even though he was pinched here, able to get some damage. But I think will he be able to actually get some economic damage in? Harvester count 64 to 50. Colossi now simply just making its way in now. The Vikings are now making their way in. Stalkers going to go after another Viking there, as the Immortals are going to start cleaning up. SCVs coming off the mineral line to try to deal more damage. A Viking getting off a little bit more Lancer torpedo shots here, as Vikings want to hunt down this one, Colossus. The Colossus, however, backing off slowly but surely. It does get finally taken down by 2 Vikings, as Jaxx now down to 77 food compared to 101. We are even on Harvesters. This game still has plenty of room to go. SCVs need to get back to work, perhaps adding in a Vespene Geyser as well, as the Medevacs are now finally going to spot this one pylon. This pylon will get quickly taken out, but the drop play has been revealed, perhaps transferring some units over here to the 2 o'clock expansion location, as we still have an observer at the planetary fortress. Colossi, Zealots, Sentries still sitting in the center portion of the map. A Marine now patrolling in between these 2 bases, making sure to catch sight of any Warp Prism play. We are going to have a 9 Marauder drop, and this is more to take down key tech buildings, perhaps some pylons, prevent any more warp-ins, and start to slowly cut off those reinforcements. Where are they going to go is the key question. A Medevac, 2 more along the top looking to do a drop. Units in the center. Jaxx may be forced to split up his army, as we now see the Marines and the Marauders simply unloading, and they are going to be charging at this pylon and then perhaps at this Nexus here. More Marauders are coming along the backside. The Marauders want to take down and snipe down this Nexus, as in comes the units now. Marines and the Marauders are engaging, backing off, and now in comes the Marauders here. They're going to be going after the Twilight Council and perhaps even that Dark Shrine before it is finished. Zealots now warping in. The Marauders taking down the Robotics Bay. No more Colossi. There it goes, as now the Zealots are quickly running in. The Dark Shrine has been completed. The Dark Shrine the next to get sniped down here, as the Warp Gate cooldown, unable to really do much. Now also going for a Twilight Council. The Marauders now also taking down the Cybernetics core, and that is a key building, as now only the Warp Gates can only train Zealots. No more Stalkers, at least for a little while longer. No more Colossi, and with no Templar Archives or Dark Shrine, no High Templars or Dark Templars either. Vikings now sitting still in the center. Hicks knocks out. We'll see what he's going to be doing. We have 64 versus 64 workers still. The Marauders could drop in over here. We are getting some photon cannons as well, as the armies are starting to macro up, but knocks out. Gonna hit that 200 food count first. We see him sitting at 169, building a 4th command center and some additional supply depots. He is currently, or he was supply blocked, or he is supply blocked still, as Jaxx still has plenty of room to work with, but unable to train any true units that he would like. The Nexus now taking a lot of damage, already down to 0 shields, down to 800 hit points. The Marauders look like they will be able to finish it off, and it does get taken down, and the Marauders all jump back inside that medevac. Now Jaxx is in trouble, as he's only mining off of one base. Marauders and the Marines are now simply going to push in here. Probes coming from the 3rd base, as Jaxx is in trouble. The Nexus is going to get destroyed. Colossi now making their way over, but there's simply going to be too many Vikings and too many bio units here, as the Probes and the Marines go toe-to-toe. Marines winning that engagement easily, and now all the Marauders need to do is simply stutter step their way in. Zealots now trying to chase after some of these units, and now another really nice pickup there, as all the Marauders and the Marines will be able to rinse and repeat, saving many units. Command center most likely will be upgraded to an orbital command once more. This Marine still patrolling in between these bases. You see shield upgrades now being added as well, as the level 1 weapons upgrade has already been completed. No additional Twilight Council, meaning no more level 3 upgrades or even level 2 upgrades right now for the Protoss ground army. Sorry, level 2 upgrade already completed, so that's why he's going for a level 1 shield upgrades, as he can't get any more upgrades at all. Ghosts now are on the field. EMP Shockwave could deal a lot of damage here. We'll see what's going to be happening as the Stalkers... Oh, the EMP Shockwave does hit some of those Colossi, but the Stalkers were able to blink in. The Marauders and the Marines are now backing off once more, trying to create some more distance. Vikings now joining in, as the Stalkers quickly focus down the Viking. Marauders and the Marines backing off still, as the Planetary Fortress joins in and gets off one shot. Zealots have to be very careful, as the Colossi really have nowhere to run. Shields are going to slowly start to regenerate again, as we now see Marauders and Marines 2-2 upgrades with no sight of 3-3 upgrades yet. Marine simply walking straight into his own death. It looks like the Marauder didn't get the memo that he needs to get away. He gets taken down, as we are now rebuilding the Twilight Council. 3-3 upgrades now being started. Marauders, Vikings, and Marines still being trained. We'll see how many production buildings are currently being used. We see 10 barracks, but only 4 infantry units are being trained at this stage. More Ghosts could be added, more Marines. There you go, finally ramping it up to 11 units being trained at a time. And now the Vikings are making their move. There is an observer. We'll see what's going to be happening over here. One SCV does get taken down. Multiple SCVs getting taken down, as the Vikings are hunting for their target. Marines, as I mentioned, are still upgraded 2-2. SCVs now joining in on the fight. 70 food versus 48. 180 as the SCVs are now joining in on the battle. Marauders and now Vikings coming back around a blink. What is going to be happening here as the engagement still rages on? There are some force fields. The Vikings now engaging against the Colossi in the back, and I believe that will be GG, as the Vikings can just land, and there is the GG. Well played by Jaxx. So Jaxx losing game 1 in this series to NoxOut. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.